This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.
That's right. Get those tickets now, everybody. They are going fast. As you heard, TEX. Nice drop by TEX, by the way. Get them today. The first hotel, motel we're all staying at, everybody, is already sold out. Can you believe it? Yeah, September 19th and 20th. Go to Eventbrite. The link is posted here in this channel on all of our groups. So go check it out if not already. Thanks for joining Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. It's, of course, every 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon with TEX and BRENT. And sometimes we have a guest. If you are new here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube. Texas from Porch on YouTube. Brent Thomas, the Paranormal Portal, found on YouTube. And, of course, the girls, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World. Donnie Cho Says Stuff. And, of course, Paranormal Paul, who just hit 1,000 subscribers. Yay. Congratulations to Paul. He does a good job over there. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, wherever podcasts are found. Don't forget to help support the show. The super chats are open, and you, too, everybody, can become a BMR pirate. Arr, mateys. Join today. Join the many, join the few, as I like to say, depending on your point of view, of course. Thank you so much for that. Also, really quickly, I want to thank everybody for buying my books. You can find them on Amazon. Bigfoot Michigan Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1 and Book 2. Simply type Bigfoot Michigan Rob in your Amazon browser. Those that have bought it, please leave a review. It's all analytics these days. It does help promote sales of the books, much like on YouTube. It's analytics. Hit that thumbs up. But now I've found out, according to TEX, leaving comments after the shows also helps that ever fascinating algorithm. And I'll just leave it at that. Just do that. So we have a pretty cool show in store for you. And without further ado, I'm going to bring up Mr. Tex. What's happening, Tex?
Not a whole lot. We ain't getting no that nasty weather, y'all. They're getting up north of us, man.
Well, I got to tell you, I'll bring up Brent really quickly as well. I'll get into that just a little bit because I got something interesting to show you guys. And there is Mr. Brent Thomas, Paranormal Portal.
Good day, gents.
Good day. You know, it's funny, Tex, that you mentioned that because, first of all, for all you folks that have been inflicted by these tornadoes, you know, it's tornado season in the Midwest, the southern states. If you've been afflicted by that, of course, prayers to you. Hopefully you're all pretty, are safe and nothing disastrous has happened. Like, unfortunately tends to happen. And here in Michigan, you guys, we, as far as tornadoes go, we get tornadoes, but they're not, they typically don't really touch the ground. If they touch the ground, they come from the south because I'm like an hour from Ohio and Indiana border. So if we do get a big tornado, it's thrust from the south to the north. Typically, all the weather comes from the west, but I believe that because of Lake Michigan, it really kind of protects us from these big tornadoes. But what we do get, especially where I live, thunderstorms, rain, and all of this stuff. This is just crazy weather. And where I live, it floods all the time. And I'm going to tell you guys, I've always wanted a lakefront property. And I was up this morning and I was invited to this. It's the front of my house.
Nice.
Well, you got what you wish for.
I got what I wished for. That is lakefront property right out the front door of BMR's house. Yeah, there it is. My taxes will probably go up. Huh?
You're a pirate. You're a pirate. I'm just saying.
I'm Arvades. In fact, I do have a canoe. I was telling Tex earlier this morning, I might take out my little canoe because you can go out right here and go way down to the back past that stop sign. There's a creek. It's got a nice current and it can take you all around. But I was telling Tex that if I were to get on that, I don't know how I would get back because that current.
Just get your brother to come pick you up.
No, I would need two people to traverse the canoe, right? If I went solo, I couldn't come back against the current. It's too strong. And that takes you to all the tributaries around here. And they all lead to the Detroit River. Yeah, that's all I would need. Canoe on the Detroit River. Yeah, and I could get there just by simply getting on a canoe and hitting that creek that kind of surrounds my entire neighborhood. But that's what I get. And it used to flood all the time, but I had to do some things over the last several years to stop that. But the water, you guys, does come up to the porch, literally, sometimes.
It's not Texas porch, though, right?
It's not the front porch. Thank God for that. You don't experience any flooding really around your parts, do you, Tex? I know that it's known to flood in the Dallas area, but
well, no, not normally here. I mean, we get our streets flooded every once in a while. You know, I mean, they'll get deep, but they don't come into the yard type thing. You know, not in my area, but I'm kind of on high ground, so that helps. But yeah, it's in low lying areas. Yeah, they'll shut down roads and stuff because they'll get flooded out.
What about you, Brent? Do you get any of those sorts of weather? Are you kind of like the mountains kind of surround where you live, or are you too far south?
No. I'm up in the mountains, so we don't get flooding here. I grew up in Minnesota on a floodplain, so I spent many a spring boating from the hill near our house to our house, and the power off, the heat off. We lived there all year round. So, but yeah, when the Mississippi came up, in fact, that's what actually was one of the things that brought me to the north of Idaho was, I was living in my grandmother's basement of her house. She passed away years ago, but the downstairs was kind of set up as a separate living unit. So I used to live there, but the flood came and it flooded us out. So we had to go.
Yeah, I'm fortunate where I live up kind of on a hill, so my elevation is much higher than the neighbors. Despite myself getting all this water, the lower lying houses, the one on the far corner on that picture, the poor guy, that house goes up for sale every 2 years because the basement always is flooded. There's nothing the engineers can do about it. And that's why the house always sells for $40,000, $50,000, well below market value, because these poor people are always throwing their furniture out, or if they have kids, their toys and stuff gets messed up. And they know this going into this because that's all disclosed.
Sure.
The house is turned over maybe 20 times in, 15 years, literally.
Wow. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. So, but people buy it because, it's cheap and they figure, well, it won't happen to me. Hey, it happens 3 times a year at least during the spring.
Do you have an in-ground basement too, or no?
I do,
but you don't get water in here.
It used to until it wasn't from the flood with the ground. The water pressure would seep into the ground, and I would get flooding in the basement. So I had to have on the side of the house, the north side of the house. I had to have some guys come in and dredge it all out.
Oh.
And then lay whatever they put, cement and steel. They made like a seawall, if you had a lakefront property.
Yep.
So since I had that done, I don't get anything in the house.
Oh, good. Okay.
But some of these lower lying houses, for example, if you had a regular sedan car on the street, much like is out there today, the water is so high that it goes underneath the bottom of your door, and it goes inside and floods out the inside of your car. So many a car has been
Marooned.
ruined in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And insurance I don't think covers that. A friend of mine found out not too long ago.
No.
I never park on the street.
The only thing you can hope is that you can get flood insurance through FEMA. That's what we traditionally did on the floodplain in Minnesota. And otherwise you're screwed. Insurance don't
tell you
want
I'll tell you a quick story about FEMA. My brother made CNN News.
Oh,
His house, my brother lives literally 3 blocks from me. He lives on the corner.
mm-hmm.
He's got a big old lot on the corner, and he had we had this big, huge storm. It was a terrible storm, and his basement flooded. Literally in the basement, 3 to 4 feet up inside of his, and all the homes in that area, they got destroyed. So he put his claim in with FEMA, and he had tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage. It took him 3 years to get a check from FEMA, 3 years, and guess how much the amount was for?
$1.
$3,200.
Ooh.
And then my brother was calling into his insurance company or into the assessor because of the taxes, and his taxes got levied $1,200 more per year. And you know what they told him on the phone?
I can't imagine.
Well, you quite frequently experience lakefront property. He about went down there ready to wring somebody's neck, literally.
Yeah.
His wife had to stop him because he hung up the phone. He was going right to the city hall and dragged the mayor out of his office.
Yeah.
And if he did not have the wife, I'm not so sure he wouldn't have. But can you imagine someone telling you that?
No, that's in pretty poor taste.
That is terribly poor taste.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep, that deserves an ass whooping.
Oh gosh, for sure. So, but that's that. Again, everybody, if you're in the Tornado Valley or wherever, if you're in the path of tornadoes, hey, I hope you're okay. Again, it happens. We all know this is nothing new in the United States, right? It does seem to get progressively worse every year, but that's because they're firing lasers up into the atmosphere.
And HARP and all kinds of other stuff. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Everything.
Yeah.
I think it's the hail cannons.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what it is.
Could be.
We kind of talked about this. I think it was it was on the girls' show last night. Was it last night? No. Yeah. That they used to use hail cannons. They thought that if firing cannons up in the air with no rounds in it, just a concussion wave would bust apart the hail and stuff, and it wouldn't.
Oh, wow. How'd that work out?
Depends who you ask. But that was a thing in the 1800s, early 1900s.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. That's like around the time they were using leeches to suck out diseases and stuff, right?
Well, yeah, supposedly, yeah, that's what you did.
Bloodletting.
Yep.
It's weird. You know what's strange though? One of the treatments from back then is still being used today, and that's using magnets to eat out gangrene.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that too. It seems kind of gross, but apparently that works wonders.
They're sterilized maggots.
Yep.
Because they only eat the dead tissue.
And apparently they secrete like an antibiotic though too. Something like that. So like they eat the dead tissue and then they like the mucus that they generate is, I guess, like an antibiotic or something like that. I could be absolutely wrong, but that's the version I heard.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard that, but I'm I'm sure that everything's a possibility.
Sure. That's why we got shows.
That's why we have
Thank you,
shows.
Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly Sandiford. Great way to start the show. Thank you so much, Kelly. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody for coming on in, whether you're in the chat room or listening elsewhere or watching replay. That's awesome. And so you guys, I didn't know. So the three of us are sitting here. We usually spitball some things, and I decided, what to come up with for today. And we always talk about, we always keep the topics the same with cryptids, the paranormal, this, that, and the other. We're going to do the same today. But there's always that question that makes you wonder, right, about where these things actually come from. Now, I'm not talking specifically cryptids being flesh and blood or being paranormal or ghosts, spirits, or any of these other things we come across. But I was trying to think about, do some of these cryptids or these paranormal things, where do they come from outside the earth? We've all heard about things coming through portals. We've all heard about maybe that we just imagine these things. Maybe they come from inner earth, from all over, different planes, different realms, maybe a world between the planes and the realms. I don't know. But I saw this picture. I'm not a big picture guy. I don't know where it was. I was on one of the social medias, Facebook, wherever it was, online. And I saw an interesting picture. I didn't copy and paste the picture because I'm not a big picture guy, but it got me to thinking whether this picture was accurate or contrived. I don't know, but it seemed like in the foreground of this forest where the picture was taken, I think somewhere in Tennessee, it had all these. It had two pictures in it. One was all of these beings of sorts. It seemed like they were like coming through from a portal, and they were just about to come through and come onto our side, into our realm. And all of a sudden, in the other picture, they all kind of receded back. And I thought that was interesting, and it got me to thinking: were they coming from? Was this something to do with? We all hear about the CERN. We all hear about another realm. I'm wondering if these things do come from other areas outside of just our planet itself. We've all talked to people, interviewed different people. We've been doing this a long time. We've had different guests on our shows, our own personal research, and watching other podcasts. You think there's any relevance? You think that some of these creatures aren't even walking on the planet? They are coming from somewhere else?
I think it's anything is possible. I mean, I don't think we really understand the nature of the reality we live in and all of the many layers. But I mean, people have been considering portals or dimensions or gateways since ancient times, and so they must have come upon that somewhere. I mean, like something must have been observed or experienced where it started that, or many things. I don't know. I mean, there's people today who even claim to see portals emerging and things coming out of them. So is it possible? Sure. I think we live in a multiverse. So God only knows what lives in those other versions or those other layers. Could be frequency related, could be dimensionally related. That could mean the same thing for all we know too. I don't know, but it doesn't surprise me, the possibility of it.
Me either. And I'm always confused about when people throw out these words like a different realm, the multiverse, vortex, this, that, and the other. I mean, aren't they all like the same thing? Or are they different? That's the thing that I don't have a big handle on yet. Quantum Digger's Dog says the quantum mechanics is involved, which is another possibility.
Sure. Well, I think as far as multiverse is concerned, that's like, I mean, in some variations, it's many layers of an existence similar to ours, but each has a little difference. And they're, I don't know, somehow we're separated from them. Like dimensions are levels of reality in terms of, things stacked on each other. Like if you were in a one-dimensional reality that you only had one dimension of perspective, you wouldn't be aware of a two-dimensional reality, which would be right on top of you. And much the same, if you're in a two-dimensional reality, you wouldn't be aware of a third-dimensional reality that would be right on top of you. And so I think dimensions are like layers of perception, almost, or the ability to perceive layers of perception. But like a multiverse or that kind of thing, I think there's just variations of reality all around us. And that it's not having as much to do with dimensions as it is with, I don't know, the mechanics or what happens in that other version of reality. And I don't know. I mean, there's some people that suggest that the Mandela effect is us merging into another version of reality, of the multiverse, so to speak. And that's why we have Mandela effects, like, because the lion laid down with the lamb in the Bible until more recently, where it's the wolf laying down with the lamb, and that cooks most people's bacon. It's like, wait, it's always been the lion. Mirror, mirror on the wall versus magic mirror on the wall. And, and then there's huge variations there that are just phenomenal. But, so are those us traversing this multiverse in a sense, like merging into other versions of reality? And there's those little variations or those colloquialisms and terms and things like that are a little bit different. And so I don't know if I'm explaining anything, but I'm trying.
Well, that's the thing. We're all spitballing here. Tex would say chewing the fat. And again, to me, it's just the more you know, the less you know. And all these things we're talking about, it's just so contrived into one big ball, right? It's like a big, never-ending ball, right? That you can't get heads or tails on.
Yeah.
Tex, what's you all right over there?
I am good. Good. I'm just trying to arrange things and talk over people that are outside my door. But anyway, we've talked about the whole realms, and I don't know what Brent's problem is. He is the portal master here. I mean, he's got one behind him, for God's sake.
Yeah.
He does, doesn't he?
I can't give it all away on one show, though, Tex. I got to safeguard some of this.
Always have to spread it out. Yeah.
But, we've got, our good friend Kristen Payton was on an investigation out in the woods where they actually caught what they think is evidence of a portal on thermal. People actually walking into it and disappearing and then coming back out and talking about a different reality. It was a different place.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with that? You've got, the missing time with me.
Yeah.
Well, I still don't know what to do with that. So is it possible that these things are on a different plane, or they, do they come from, like, I think you mentioned earlier, Rob, inner earth, middle earth, whatever, hollow. I'm kind of leaning towards this whole hollow earth thing, because there's a lot of stuff out there that we experience, and the stuff just is gone now, because I don't think these things are walking around jumping in and out of wormholes, portals, whatever you want to call them. Mm-hmm. Maybe not all of them anyway. But I do think those things exist. Maybe it has to do with ley lines. Maybe it has to do with certain vibration. Maybe we just catch glimpses of them when they hit they hit the harmonics is right with our realm,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we see as far as ghosts and stuff. But the more the the Dogman, werewolf, that type of thing, Bigfoot. I think it's something we're dealing with on a physical plane, in our plane.
Mm-hmm.
They're just real good at hiding.
I could agree with that. I got to ask you for people that are confused, because you always hear people talk about the ley line. What exactly is a ley line in regards to what we're talking about?
Basically, it's the way the magnetics run over the earth, and you can look up a ley line map. And the thing about most people don't realize is ley lines shift. It's much like the poles, they shift all the time. I know everybody was all talking about, oh, the poles are going to flip. It's the end of the freaking world. Poles have flipped in the past. It just happens, right? But the North Pole changes. It doesn't stay all the same. So Santa's got to move all the time. But
yeah, he certainly does.
But from my understanding, ley lines basically are magnetic lines that run across the planet, and they do run into each other, and it tends to. What's odd is a lot of the places we talk about, Blind Frog Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch, LBL, Brown Springs. If you look at all those, they have ley lines that cross. They have ley lines that intersect in those areas. I think there's something to that. I don't know if it's, as far as the physical critters, I don't think it's necessarily where these portals pop up as much. Maybe it is with the other side of things, but maybe it's it's much like you open up a breaker outside when your AC goes on the fritz and a bunch of ants fall out of it. They're attracted to the electromagnetic field, and maybe that's what we're seeing here.
What's your thoughts, Brent, on the ley lines?
I think it's certainly worth considering, because a lot of the ancient sites like Stonehenge and different megalithic sites all over the planet are believed to be on convergences of ley lines. Like those locations are considered energetic, sacred, holy, perhaps, however it's defined, but those energetic points seem to be very significant, and people have been attracted to them forever and revered them forever. So yeah, I think there's something really potent in terms of that. Like there's and it's nothing that we're anywhere near cracking as far as explaining or understanding, but certainly the earth is a living organism in and of itself, and these ley lines seem to be its chakras, so to speak. Like these are the energetic points of convergences or something, and perhaps it is interdimensional or some other version of that. I don't know, but yeah, I think those sites have been important for all through our history as a civilization.
Do you think there's something exists between actual time and space? Because I'm going to have a guy on in 2 weeks. We're going to be talking about this. I'm going to throw it at you guys. Do you think there's a world between time and space, if we even know what time and space is and what the difference is? Something in that layer? Everything seems to be layered, right?
Well, so here's the thing for me with especially with time and space, is that we perceive time as this very linear series of events. Like
Right.
Here's where it starts and here's where it ends, and then there's, you know, incremental shifts in between there. But I'm really kind of thinking that, like, maybe time is a human construct. It's us measuring our experience, so to speak. Like, you know, we measure time by where we are, how far it'll take, or how long it'll take to get to somewhere else. But there's a concept that I'm really fascinated with. It's called non-Euclidean time. And the idea is that all time exists in the same now. You know, from the dawn of all of creation to the inevitable collapse of it all, from the moment of your birth till the moment you're taking your last breath, and, you know, everything is happening just in this now. And we move through this now in terms of our experience, in terms of our growth, in terms of what we learn in our lives, you know, the journey our lives take us, and we perceive that, we measure that based on time, this construct of time. But, you know, perhaps everything is already happening now. And case in point, in the paranormal, I've covered many stories where people experience ghosts, and the ghosts are just as surprised to see the people as the people are to see the ghosts. It's like, we're the ghost to them, they're the ghost to us. Well, maybe that's a time diaphragm. And if it is possible to see through different timelines, then it has to be somehow stacked or somehow piled onto each other. I mean, there's got to be something else, because if it's a linear construct, or if it's a taco or a burrito, as some people like to explain it, there is a point in, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of all things existing, because it kind of feels like what maybe the mind of God would be like. Like, there isn't, I don't think the mind of God exists, you know, from here to here or whatever. I think it's outside of all of this. And maybe this whole non-Euclidean time idea is kind of, you know, the time of the God, you know, of God, of the divine. Like, I don't know if I'm making sense of this or not. I'm trying really hard, but this is very deep for this time of day. But you know, it's fascinating to think that maybe time isn't a thing at all. It's just how we measure change. So I don't know.
Time just could be irrelevant, really.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
So
time was an invention by us.
Yeah.
well, sure.
And me and Paul did one of the Waking Up Weirds about different lifespans of different things, right? So, say you're one of these critters that live 2 weeks. That is a lifetime to you.
Mm.
You know, you have us that, let's say, on the outside we can live 100 years. Okay, I know not very many of us make it. I will, but not many of us make it.
100 years. Yeah. Oh, it's definitely in the cards. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know, Santa lives to 124, so, you know, normally. But so, do you think that these things measure time the same way we do? Absolutely not.
No, not at all.
You know, you've got tortoises, and, you know, that live a few hundred years. They don't measure time the way we do. You know, their lifetime is different than ours. Look at a dog. You know, a dog on the outside will live, you know, extremely 20 years, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, I had one that lasted 18 years. But normally they live about 10 years. But they don't register that as being oh, I'm only here for this amount of time.
No, they don't think that at all.
No.
They
So to your point, time is irrelevant, but it goes back to the old adage, perception is reality, right? So,
and even with like predators, we don't even have to talk about cryptids. For example, even the tortoises or the animals, mammals, fishes of the seas, you know, they know where to migrate to in certain warm waters, right? When the season comes, they know where to go to during mating season. predators know right around nightfall is when they can go out there. It's their best time to hunt. They're not on a clock. They instinctively live off of the land and how the world spins around the axis, right?
Right.
It's dusk, it's time to hunt. It's depending on the animal, it's the daytime they might sleep and rest for their hunt, or the opposite with other certain animals, right?
Well, it's like us. We
really
are
don't
normally not nocturnal animals. We
know.
can't see for crap, and so when it gets dark, we seek shelter.
Yeah.
You know, that is ingrained in our DNA, like you're talking about. You know,
There's even people that suggest, okay, this is 2025. Some people suggest that the year really is like 2053. And some people suggest it's like 1997. I don't even think there's an accurate time where we can assess what the actual year is, or even what time it actually is.
Sometimes I kind of wish it was 1987.
I wish I loved 87. Yeah.
But
Well,
there again,
87 was a rough year for me, but
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
but any measurement that we give time is still a human measurement. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
Really,
Absolutely.
it's kind of like the whole flat Earth versus round Earth. It's like, well, either way, I still got the same crap to deal with, whether we're on a plate or an orb. So
Yeah, when it comes down to it, does it really matter?
yeah, no, not really. Not in my opinion, anyway. But that's just me.
Tex brought on something a little bit earlier about this inner Earth thing, which I'm really getting more and more fascinated with. I tell you what, I tend to believe that there is something inside the inner Earth. I think a lot of these, even if you talk about how these things appear and disappear at will, we can get rid of the realm, the time and space gig. What about the creatures? There's another world inside the planet I've often wondered about. It sounds far-fetched. You even hear stories about the moon being hollow, for God's sakes.
Right.
But we do know this about the United States, the planet Earth. There are all these cities that are built in the inner Earth. All these DUMBs we always hear about. It's not just a research facility. Even over there, where is it? Is that in Colorado? Is it where NORAD has set up a community where you can hold 2,000 people, and it runs like a city beneath the earth? Why not some of these cryptid beings? Why not? Why don't they have their own other place to live outside of the planet?
Case in point, the new research going on in Egypt that suggests that there's these, pillars going hundreds of meters into the earth, and then there might be an underground city there. Yeah. And this would be from ancient times. I don't know if the earth is hollow per se, but I think it's incredibly cavernous.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know that there's an orb, the orb-like sun of some burning minerals in there, and they got but there's apparently proven, or at least suggested through seismographs, that there is underground oceans. They have had seismographs on the floor of the ocean in some of the deepest areas possible, and they have recorded what sounds like waves crashing on a beach on their deep water seismographs, and it seems pretty incredible. There was an advent in, I think it was over in the Pacific Islands, but it might have been, no, I think it was, but apparently suddenly in the ocean there was introduced a whole array of new manta rays that had never been seen before, just suddenly. And it apparently coincided with a great break of one of the ice shelves up in the Arctic, that perhaps there was something being plugged in it, and it opened up with the collapse of this huge ice shelf, and suddenly they're seeing these new breeds of like manta rays and things like that. And did they come from one of those inner oceans, or how does that work? So there does seem to be at least reasonable data to suggest that there's something pretty significant going on under the earth under the crust of our earth, or in the crust. Is it other civilizations? Is it other, is there cultures in there? And I think it's possible. I don't know. It really does boggle your mind when you think of possibilities, right?
Tex, you recall we had Dr. Dean Bertram on a couple weeks ago on this show, and he was talking about the Darrow and the inner earth. A lot of these beings lived there.
Yep.
And I thought that was a fascinating take. Dr. Dean Bertram, that was a great story, but he's going to be a speaker, by the way, at our conference.
Yes, he is. You know, the thing about it is, if we're going to talk about Bigfoot and Dogman, these type of creatures that I believe are physical. Okay, I'm just going to get that out there. The ones I've dealt with, anyway.
Yes.
Ouch. They don't spend all their time below ground because they don't. Well, as we know, or as far as we know, they need sunlight, so they do come up. You know, when you start talking about subterranean things, the ones that spend all the time in the dark don't really have any use for eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so these things are going in and out somewhere with fairly regularly. You know, maybe it's like we were talking about. There's certain times when they come out and certain times when they go in, but which is kind of odd because why do we have nighttime encounters and daytime encounters? And now given the daytime encounters are not as prevalent as the nighttime encounters, but what are we dealing with here? Because I agree with Brent that it's not so much hollow, it's cavernous.
Yeah, I would say so too.
But I don't think that it takes a huge cavern. It's not like we're thinking about, miles and miles and miles. Because I do think that these things that maybe they do make their bed underground, or put their lair, or whatever you want to call it, underground. Mm-hmm. It could be something, a spot that they found that's just carved out and gives them shelter, But and I also think these things are nomadic, so they move around, and they probably identified certain spots. Sometimes maybe they bed down elsewhere, when they're moving around. As far as the Darrow and that type of thing, is it possible? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because there are things that if you grow up in a certain area, you develop certain skills, you develop certain, different. It's no different. I mean, look at humans, light skin versus dark skin, light, darker skin seems to be more in the arid, places, and light skin are the colder places. So we've all made adjustments or adaptations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Brett, when you had your UFO experience back in the day, and when you observed this thing, did you get the sense that it just came from the galaxy? You think, or was there anything that made you think it came from a portal or a wormhole? Or it was just there when you were out on that back deck looking into the skies?
It was just there. I mean, I had no concept where it came from. I don't know how long it was there before I saw it, and I certainly decided to stop watching it when I realized it was probably watching me. That was when it was like, oh, okay. I don't need this to go any further. I don't need to get sucked up or taken away or experimented on. So I was like, yeah, I'm good. And then I just went inside. So where it came from, there's no possible way I could have any idea. It was just there. It was very real. It was really happening. But it could have come, from a block away or a galaxy away, and I wouldn't have any knowledge.
Yeah. This is some story this guy sent me, an encounter he had, and this kind of where I was even thinking about all these different avenues where all these things come from. This guy lived in, he was at the base. It was in Georgia, the base of the Georgian mountains, and I can't recall. I'd have to go back and look it up, of this mountain range. And he said it was a very beautiful area. Him and his wife bought this house, and they lived there 3, 4, 5 years. And they always thought that it was beautiful at night because at the top of the mountains, there would always be like this beautiful light show. It was like lightning, but not lightning. It was just lights would go off. They were different neon colors of blues, oranges, yellows. It was just fascinating. And in fact, the neighbors, every night, it always happened too on one particular night during the month. They started tracking this. Hey, it's Monday night. It's the 15th of the month. So they all got together and they would sit out in the yard and they would look at this brilliant show. And this went on for quite a while. And then one night it was just the man and the wife, and they're out in their yard, and they noticed that this brilliant light show seemed to be getting closer to their home. And then this light show, they were at the base of the mountains, but they were also in a cul-de-sac with a wood line in the back. And then the light show seemed to get closer, but then it seemed also, as it came in from the high top of the mountainous range, it started getting lower, and it started seeing these lights, these formations coming through the wood line. And then it kind of was right at the end of the wood line. It came from the wood line, and they could see this 100 yards away from the wood line where their house was. And then all of a sudden, he said an ominous rain and mist all of a sudden out of nowhere dulled the sky, and it kind of dampened out and diminished the colors of these neon colors, which was like 100 yards away. And the fog got thick. And he says, Rob, it reminds me, if you ever saw that movie, The Fog, and we're not around any water or anything, but it just got very creepy and spooky. Then they had this ominous feeling, the wife, and then they grabbed each other. They didn't know if they wanted to go in the house, but the fog kind of started rolling a little closer to the house. He said, Rob, it probably didn't get no more than another 20 yards from the original 100-yard depth. But then he said, I kid you not, these strange creatures, as Tex would say, kind of rolled out from the fog. And it says they were animals that started running around out of nowhere, out of this fog. But the animals were really weird. They almost were like four-legged animals that had the shapes of human heads.
Ooh.
Planted on them, and some other strange creatures. Of course, I'm reading through this, that, and the other, and take it for what you will. But then he asked me a question, and I thought this guy was serious. Where do you think this came from? Was this some UFO activity from the hills that came down? Was that fog a portal? This, that, and the other. So for me, it was very interesting. I kind of looked into a little of these things, like we all do. Didn't have an answer for the guy. Said, I don't know. It was one hell of a creepy, crazy story. And then I had asked the guy, how long has this gone on for? And he said it had gone on for off and on for a couple months. It almost got to the point where they wanted to move because it was literally terrifying. Like they were dreaming while awake, like sleep paralysis, but they were not. And they just threw that in there because I guess the guy also suffered from sleep paralysis and had often wondered. So my only thought to that was maybe he was sleeping outside and these thoughts. But the thing about it is he and the wife had seen it together. And the other neighbors had seen the brilliant light shows, but it was only this particular couple that made mention of the mysterious fog like roll through their yard with these really ominous looking creatures. I haven't heard too many stories. We've heard stories from everybody, but I never really heard anything quite like that. In fact, it kind of reminded me of The Fog from Stephen King. And I don't think somebody would just write up an email just for me to read it and throw it in the wastebasket. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's creepy. That the whole idea of human heads on creatures is, I mean, it really harkens back to Revelations, right? The the whole end of days kind of thing. It's like, oh God, that's horrifying. But I don't know. I mean, who knows? I will say that I have been in a thick fog before. And even, in this one case, I was at a campground with my ex-wife, and we were camping, and there was a street light back in this campground. I mean, it was just, it was very populated with people, but when people would walk towards us from the fog, they looked really creepy walking through the fog, and it really distorted their motions, so they looked like they were zombies, like this whole weird perversion of what you would expect seeing someone walking through it. And it felt creepy watching it, even though I knew very well that was a person, and it was somebody from the campsite right next to me. I talked to them, but when they were walking through the fog, it really distorted what I was able to see. So, I'm not saying that they didn't see what they said they saw, but I just do know that it's hard to objectively observe things in the fog, because it does pervert and distort what you can see. So it is a consideration anyway. I'm not trying to.
No, I think that's a
You know what I
great
mean?
point. I think it's a great point. I'm not suggesting this guy was. I think, like Tex and I always fall back on this. We believe that of course, according to Tex, I believe everything. But with that being said, though,
According to you, I conjure demons.
you do conjure demons. You try to, yeah. Tex, that's another story. Tex, I'm not going to get into that one. He had his. I will say this: Tex had one of his poor buddies get attacked by a demon. I don't know if it was on purpose. I don't know if you were mad at the guy at the time, Tex. Anyways,
yeah, I sicked him on.
Yeah, you did. But we always say we believe that people are seeing something.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, what is it?
Right.
If you go out in the forest intent on looking at Bigfoot, finding Bigfoot, and you can, like, I don't want to use the word conjure, but you can probably trick your mind into thinking you've seen Bigfoot. If that's what you think about, you eat, sleep, and dream. Oh God, I'm going on this camping trip looking for Bigfoot. I mean, some people can almost manifest this falsely.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, manifestation, I think, is a very real thing for us, that we can manifest pretty profound things. But there's also just basic psychology that got a confirmation bias, right? Like, they're going to see a Bigfoot. Well, no matter what they see, they're going to attribute that to a Bigfoot in some cases. I mean, certainly that's the other side of it, is that people that want so bad to see something, whatever they see is going to correlate to what they want to see, So there's always that consideration too.
Absolutely. Tex, I know you're pondering over there.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with what we're talking
about. Is it something profound you'd like to share with us, Tex? Or is it something to do with personal noise?
No, I was just reading the chat, and I'm like, what's going on with little Patty?
Oh.
Well, thanks, Tex, for joining us and paying attention to this comment. Hi, little Patty. Hello to everybody. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate all you guys.
I try to pay attention, I mean, every once in a while. I'm really bad about paying attention to what's in chat, though. It just caught my eye. But what were you talking about?
Well, we were talking about the lifespan of the kangaroo. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, these beings, where they come from? You heard that story. What do you think that was? You think there's a figment of the guy's imagination, saw something, but it wasn't, headed monsters, human heads on legs coming down from the mountains, from the beautiful colors turned into an ominous fog that rolled out these creatures. Did it come from a portal? Did it come from anywhere? Did the guy, I don't know, fall asleep and dream it all up? We don't know.
Well, I think any of that's possible. I wasn't there.
That's the big key, isn't it?
And we're very big proponents. All three of us are very big proponents of, just because I didn't experience something doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Sure.
I don't. To your point about the whole manifestation thing, I want to take it a step further, and y'all heard me talk about this before. But when you were saying, Rob, when you go out and you're looking for this and you really want to see it and everything,
right.
I mean, that leads right into the whole mind speak thing. You know, how do we know it's Bigfoot? You know, how do we? I mean, Paranormal 101, spirits are going to lie to you. They're going to pretend to be loved ones. They're going to pretend to be kids and that type of thing, because they can get their foot in the door, because they know you're more apt to communicate with something like that looks, you know, not scary or whatever, or something that you really want to communicate with. You waving at me, Brent?
No, I just every time somebody says hi in the chat, I just wave rather than try to
I
interrupt.
just thought I'd wave back at you. But so if these things if these things know our mind, why not? Why wouldn't they do that? Why wouldn't they pretend to be something that we so much want to communicate with? We want to have an experience with, you know. To me, it's no different. So
I think, you know,
what do you do with it? I mean, you know, as far as this guy seeing this, you know, it's not the first time we've heard about these creatures materializing out of these beautiful lights and orbs and everything like this. So, like I said, is it possible? Hell, I guess. You know?
Sure.
You know, you brought up something, Tex. I want to ask you or give you my thought on this. Okay. I've said this once, like a long time ago. If I was to come back as a spirit or a ghost, I would be one of those tricksters. I would, but I wouldn't do it in a mean way. I would just play jokes on people. I think if I had that ability, I would. That's just me. Now, on the other flip side of this, could we even be talking about areas where maybe people have passed on? Maybe there's unkept sanctuary where there's like people that haven't gone to the other side or got crossed over, and they know kind of what we're into, and they decide, because they're all ticked off because they can't get where they want to go, that they portray themselves as something that they're not, just to trick you, frighten you. Maybe they're nice and they want to make you have a good day. Wow, I finally saw some cryptid. I'm wondering if that really does take place with some of these spiritual elements.
Why wouldn't it?
I just wonder. I don't know. I'm not saying yes
I
or
mean,
no.
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all.
Yeah, it sure could be. I mean, there's certainly many cases of spirits that they can look 7 feet tall, they can look 9 feet tall, they can look like they're, you know, the size of a little gnome or an orb maybe. So I think they can look however they want, and certainly, I mean, I think if I was stuck here, I'd be doing that too. I'd be, hey, hold my beer, watch this. You know, I'd be seeing what I could do and you know, getting a rise out of people. Again, just much like you, not in a horrible way, but just in a, this will be fun. You know, see how they react to this. But yeah, I think that certainly there's plenty of cases of mimics, things appearing like something. I think one of the big things that the darker spirits, and I don't think that they're, you know, that they're necessarily demons, but I think they pretend to be, because they just want to scare people. I think that, you know, they claim to be, you know, everything from Satan to a demon to whatever, just to get you to leave them the hell alone.
You know, I also think too that oftentimes people throw out that word demon too freely. Yes. I don't think there's nearly the amount of demons.
No. I mean, look at YouTube. Look at YouTube videos in the paranormal. The word demon will come up like 90% of the time because it's freaking clickbait.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But I will tell you this: if I threw out a couple of demon hashtags, doing a couple of shows, and I learned this a long time ago. I will tell you this: if I included it like in the title of a show, I get not hardly no people watch the show.
Oh, really?
You might get your same people in the chat room. That's from my experiences.
Yeah.
Now, if I put Dogman in the title, well, you know, it goes off the rails.
Yeah.
Even more so than even Bigfoot, because Dogman is this sexy cryptid, right? It's that mysterious being.
Yeah, I don't know, Rob. What are you saying?
It's that militant creature created in the forest beneath the ground in these underground dumbs that are released, and they're part of the 411, the missing.
Sure.
That's what the militant Dogman is. Which, by the way, I make a joke of that, but I think that does go on today. I believe that 100%, even though I spoofed it a little bit.
Oh.
Nathan from the Quantum Show says dog mimic. He says I can see that, I can see that being scary. That actually has happened to people I know. Amy and Laney from Conversations with the Curious, they were up in Brown Springs Cemetery before they knew exactly what they were dealing with up there, and they kept hearing puppies whining. Luckily, I think, and it could have been some baby coyotes, it could have been some baby foxes, could have been anything. But I think luckily they did not go looking for them because we don't know, we've heard stories of being led astray, being lured into the woods. So, my suggestion would be, if you hear something like that, don't looking for it.
Yeah, what do you do if you hear a little baby crying from the woods, right? A lot of people say don't go. It's not a baby.
Well, I'm going.
I think that we would, as human beings, as people that care about others. Yeah, I'm going as well, even though a lot of people advise you against it. I mean, why is there a baby in the middle of the woods in the forest, at 3 o'clock in the morning? Yeah. Chances are, could it have gotten lost with its parents camping? I doubt it, but nothing's without the element of possibility.
What if it's a little squatchlet? Like the
Squatchlet.
Yeah, nice one.
Squatchlet.
Like a little baby one, and that's what you're hearing, because I think there's similarities.
Mama.
Well, let me ask you this: if it was, would you want to be the one to pick it up and Mama find it?
Oh, hell no! Hell to the no on that one.
Yeah, no.
Would you want to come up on a baby cub bear in the middle of the woods at night by itself? Lost.
No, because Mama's around somewhere, or she's dead. One or two.
Yeah. Yep.
Isn't there's a cryptid that actually out in Alaska, it could be anywhere in the world, I suppose, that's actually mimics women, cries of women being lost in the woods, where it literally gets you and drags, and it's always at the tree line along the ocean in Alaska. I think it's at the Keweenaw Peninsula. We heard about this one. Kenai, I think it is. Kenai Peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
Where from the base of the water into the forest, there would be the screams or the cries out of women. I'm lost. Help me. It sounds just like women. And supposedly the otter man. The otter man, I think it is. He grabs him. He grabs the human looking for the woman and drags him to the bottom of the ocean.
Well, you start talking about that. You start talking about, you can get into the siren aspect of things.
Yeah, well, for sure. Luring you to your death, the siren.
But and Keith says, yeah, Tex, you do that once. Well, maybe, but let me ask you this. Now, me personally, I think Rob and Brent, y'all are the same way. If I hear a young child of any age in the woods, I'm going to do my best to locate it, because could it be something scary? Could it be impending doom? Could it be I'm going to do it once? Could be. But what if you didn't go?
And then you found out.
And then you found out you had left a little child in the woods and they passed away.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I would have a hard time dealing with that. So yeah, I'm not going to leave it to chance. I will any day of the week, and this is probably going to get me in trouble. Any day of the week, I'm going to, if I have to, I will sacrifice my life for a child's.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all would. I mean, I would go out of my way.
So,
Do the best I could anyway.
But I will say this: if you're going to lure me out in the woods, you better be ready for a fight.
You better pack a lunch.
Yeah, because you might win, but you're going to limp back home. I guarantee you that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my take on that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that too. Because could you live with not helping if someone really did need help?
Carry on, boys, be right back.
Yeah. So I think you're absolutely right. I think, and maybe that's why they choose to sound that way, is because they know that any normally wired person is going to hear that and be like, I've got to go help this child. I mean, it's like a moral imperative. You can't just unwire that in your mind and just be like, no, I'm sitting here, quiet, quit crying. You gotta know. You gotta know. I just advocate, look, if you're going to be out there anywhere where you're dealing with what could be cryptids, make sure you're prepared. Make sure you got some hardware or something, at least put up a good fight in case it does come to that. Are you going to win? Well, probably not, but maybe you can make it a bad experience for them.
Make them think twice about doing it again.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, there's so many cases where it seems exceptionally clear that Bigfoot recognized what firearms are. Now, why do they recognize that? Probably because they've been plinked at, or they know like some family member's been shot or something like that. And they know what that means, that those thunder sticks, they hurt a lot and they're not good. So they avoid them. And like anything in nature, it's going to go out of its way to keep from getting harmed, because if you get harmed, you may not be able to survive. So
exactly.
Yeah,
So
I just think be careful, be prepared.
It's like we talked about before, I think Sasquatch is, the way they view humans and the way they interact with them varies from troop to troop, or Sasquatch to Sasquatch even. Sure. Because if Grandpa Bigfoot was shot in the ass in the late 1800s, and he grew up and he raised all of his family to
be on edge,
not like us so much. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Not that I'm advocating shooting at these things for no reason, but if it comes down to it, and you've got no other options, okay, roll the dice. You got nothing to lose. But I think that's fair.
Thank you, Diane. Sorry. Says Tex, have to say you did some good singing on the Blonde Show. I don't know about good, but I did some singing.
Oh boy. For those of you that have access to Facebook, or maybe members of the Blondes, you can check out Tex vocals. He did a nice rendition of Cowboy with Kid Rock. There's a few other ones I can't mention.
Yeah, y'all are gonna. We get off air. Y'all gonna have to bring that up and play it for me, because I haven't heard those yet.
Well, they're off. Yeah, I don't know if I can do it. Well, I'll send them. I'll figure it out. Yeah, they're. You haven't seen them yet. Well, Blinds and Bows have them on their their members only page. You a member of them or no?
Well, yeah, but I mean, they've only got one. They got the ZZ Top one on there.
I seen the Kid Rock one.
I saw that one. That was posted on Facebook, but you don't have Facebook, Text. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't have Facebook, and don't send me the link, because I still can't watch it on Facebook.
Right.
And it's not my fault that Facebook hates me.
Yeah, they don't like Text at all.
He gets banned just thinking about starting a page.
I do.
Guy comes, it enters his mind, and he's already taken off.
Mark Zuckerberg is mentally challenging. Don't even think it.
Yeah.
Hey, Tex, thinking about where these things come from, I know we got a few newer people I noticed in the chat room, and I know a lot of people haven't heard all these yet because I know that they don't watch all the shows. Where do you think that prowler crawler came from, man? You're
Dude,
doing an investigation at Dogman Ranch. That another
yeah,
new spot you found. What the hell do you think that was? Where'd that come from?
man, I have no clue. I asked him. He didn't talk to me. I asked him, but I'm not done with him. I'll tell you that much.
Mm.
You know what's interesting, Tex? So you described that one as being very dark. Like, usually when you hear about the crawlers, they're pale. They're usually light. And then
Right.
you were the first one that I've ever heard mention a dark one. But I will tell you this. I ran across a story, and when I find it, I'll send it to you from, I think, Phantoms and Monsters, where somebody else saw a dark crawler. So I will send you that link once I figure out where the hell I saw it for sure.
Maybe there's different kinds. There's pale crawlers and dark crawlers.
Right. And, I'm sure the pale ones stick out like a sore thumb, but the dark ones, it would be just a fleeting shadow and you wouldn't even catch it.
Well, it wasn't like dark. It was like, okay, like when you burn wood down, you get the gray ash, right? It was just a darker version of that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I was picturing. Yeah, just a dark gray.
Yeah.
And this
obviously this thing was either playing a trick on me, or had bad intentions for me. One of the two. I don't know which. Because
and then you go, "Hey, you guys, leave me alone. I'm going to stick here and do my thing." You got balls of titanium, Tex. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just me. I just do my thing. It's just
Tex does his thing.
How I roll.
And
that
thing reached out and grabbed your pant leg. Was that something else though?
Well, according to Ulerson's wife, it looked like the same thing.
Wow. So. See, it was something that I couldn't process came out and grabbed me.
Oof.
Literally, that would freak me out for sure.
Piss me off.
One of those Scooby-Doo moments, like, yeah.
If I knew what it was, I'd be fine with it. But you're talking about something we don't know what the heck this thing was.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's just such a unique description. And then I saw it again. I was like, ooh, I can corroborate it now, which is neat, because when you hear a one-off, like whenever I hear one-off stories, it's like, well, I've never heard anything throughout my body of research for years and years to corroborate that. But then to hear yours was unusual, but then to run across another claim, it's like, oh my gosh. Okay. Well, this is not that I didn't believe you, but it was just such a unique experience to you. And that's what I thought, wow, I'd not heard of that before. But then to hear it again, referenced in an article that's, I think it's still open on my computer somewhere, but I'll find that and I'll send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, my plan is when we go back, and I'm hoping to get back this month. I don't know. I got a lot of stuff going, but my plan is, because when I go out there, I usually I spend multiple days and nights out there. So I'm going to set up a secondary campsite and camp out there at that barn for at least a night.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And, yeah, by myself. So we'll see what happens.
Well, be careful. Jesus.
Yeah. Well, Brett, Tex isn't very careful. He made the comment that I said he conjures demons. Well, he doesn't, although he tries to fight them.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I call him out.
Yeah, well, you got to shout at the devil, right?
Oh, yeah, a little Motley Crue reference.
Yep. Well, I mean, that's built on religious predicate. It's like, command it, to yell at it, get it,
True.
But yeah,
don't show fear. They say try not to.
Right.
They feed all of the nefarious things feed on your fear.
Yeah, that's what they say. Yep. And I would say that at the very least, when you show fear, you're surrendering. When you're surrendering to fear, you're actually surrendering to the dominion or the will of this thing. You're letting it be superior to you, and you can't do that.
Yeah, what they say, yeah, you're actually, when you surrender, if you show fear, you're surrendering. And so these nefarious things suggest that you lost your belief system.
Well, right.
You
Yeah,
believe in the higher power of some sort.
right.
You're eradicating that out of your process, your thought process, which leaves you vulnerable.
Faith is a powerful thing, brother.
Keith says, tent, check. Sleeping bag, check. Flamethrower, check.
Tank, check.
I don't think, Brent, I've ever asked you throughout your career doing your thing.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever had a physical altercation with anything, touch you, or really felt that heavy presence in
Oh, I felt plenty of heavy presences. Yeah. I mean, I felt pure evil before, and it was just not comfortable. But I also, if it's just in terms of being someplace that I don't need to be, if I feel that, I just don't stay. I don't go out of my way to challenge these dark things, but I've been pushed before. And this was actually only a couple of years ago. The first time I've been scratched, but I think I showed the images of that.
You did. I remember.
Yeah. So that happened right here in the studio. But the time that I was pushed it was interesting. I was actually we'd gone to the conference in Vernal, Utah. And after that conference, we befriended Roman and Jaron Daniels, who are the creators and hosts of Supernatural Station podcast. And they're like, hey, our family has some weird activity going on this property in the Uinta Basin that's near Skinwalker Ranch, the location. They said, would you want to come check it out? And I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. So when we went down a couple of years ago, I packed all my gear and we went and investigated. And we had this, I mean, it was incredibly energetic place. There was just like, I have a REM pod, and my REM pod would not stop screaming. No matter where I put it, it was just lights going on. I'm like, God, I thought it was broke, like something had happened during my trip down there. So I shut it off, and we were getting weird K2 hits and stuff, EMF spikes. And I set up the flashlight test, and we got some incredible real-time responses on, off, on command, where it was just giving us information that it was a guardian spirit. It was old, hundreds and hundreds, centuries old. It had been a part of this land since the Ute native tribes, and it was a guardian of the land. And
Wow.
it was apparently not happy about this, the houses being developed in there. And they weren't houses, they were like cabins, but there was these cabins around, and that's why it was kind of raising hell with the family. So and I was like, please be peaceful, please, understand these people, come in love and respect and whatever. And we had a beautiful moment. But during that, Jaron, the guy from Supernatural Station, was standing right next to me, and all of a sudden he's like this, and he shoots forward, and I'm like, what happened? He goes, oh my God, I was just shoved, I was pushed, and there was nothing behind him. And I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. So it was a physical thing, and that was kind of powerful. But I just, it was his experience, not mine. I didn't get touched or anything, but we got done there, and I did a closing ceremony of sorts, and it was really a cool experience. But I went all the way back, 45-minute drive away back to Vernal, Utah, to the hotel motel, and I was with Don at the time, and Don crashed. I mean, he was out like a light, just sawing logs, and I'm just like, well, okay. I brushed my teeth, getting ready, and 2 beds, by the way. We never snuggled at all, I promise. But
What fun is that?
yeah, well, I'm not that easy, Tex. You gotta work at it.
Not
You
what
gotta
I've
work
heard.
at it. Well, you heard wrong.
I'll buy you dinner at least.
Well, I do require dinner first. But I just went, and I finally laid down, and I was getting relaxed, and I'm laying on my side. I'm a side sleeper, so I'm laying on my side, just relaxing, starting to just wind down, about to drift off, and no kidding, something suddenly just shoved me, and I went over I got shoved over in bed, and I'm suddenly face down. I'm like, and I went from 0 to pissed, because for me, that's a big thing. When something reaches out and touches you, it crossed a line.
Yeah.
And I started cussing like a trucker. I'm like, you cannot do that. I'm saying all kinds of expletives. And I'm like, I'm just raging because something actually shoved me. And, I said it couldn't be there, made, all the prayers and all that stuff and cast it out. And that was it. But it was the one time when I've been shoved. So.
What about you, Rob?
Yeah, Rob, what about you?
Not physically touched.
Okay.
Felt darkness, of course. You guys heard those stories. But yeah,
I think my favorite encounter of yours, I don't want to call it a story. My favorite encounter of yours is the one where you were in the bar and there were people in there having drinks.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was fantastic. I did this on Brent's show.
Crazy.
That was crazy to see, and what was great about that, for those that didn't hear that story, it's kind of long. I'm not gonna, just the nuts and bolts. And Brent's heard this, Texas heard it, a lot of people might have heard it. I had encountered 4 ghosts literally in my bar that were, when I looked at these things, they were transparent and they appeared to be from the gangster era, or from like the days of Prohibition,
the 20s. Yeah,
that's how they were dressed, right?
Yeah.
And they were, I could see right through them to the other side of the bar. And it was late at night when I was getting ready to close up. I came up from the office downstairs and I heard all this weird noise. A couple times I checked and there was nothing there. Then like the second or third time I go look, and there's apparitions at the end of the bar. And the entire bar was cleaned, everybody. All the beer bottles were gone, shot glasses, drink glasses, they're all gone, put away like we do before we close. And there was a bottle of whiskey and a shot glass in front of these 2 guys. And there was 2 women. They looked like flappers. There's a bottle of wine there, physical bottles and glasses. And I get closer to these things. I'm not scared. I go forward. I'm very intrigued because by this time I've seen so many things in my life that it didn't scare me. But the thing that was odd, you guys, is when the one I finally got their attention, because I took my hand at the other end of the bar to kind of, hey, I'm here, because they were just talking about themselves and these whispers. And the one apparition of the man, he put his ghostly hand around the shot glass and it lifted, it elevated. It had whiskey in it, you guys, and elevated up no more than a foot. And then it kind of slipped out of his hand, crashed, just shattered on top of the bar. Now, again, shot glass from 1 foot to drop on top of a bar counter is not going to shatter into a million pieces. They're very sturdy. They're very thick. You got to take it in your hand and literally gun it at the cement floor to bust it up like that. Dispersed all over. And now I'm just enthralled at this, and I'm looking down at these apparitions, and all of these 4 kind of look over at me, and they already were transparent, but then all of a sudden they started to slowly fade away, slowly, and they kind of almost morphed into almost like skeleton-ish and vanished. And sure enough, I go down to the end of the bar, and yeah, it was actual whiskey. It was actual glass, and I seen where the bottle was taken from the inventory. It was moved from the back of the bottles like it was being sneaky and brought it to the front. And the wine glasses had elements of wine in the glasses, and it was from these apparitions, these ghosts from the past. And it was prompted me to do further research on the bar. And then I found out, I never knew this prior, but this bar, the foundation of this bar has been there since like the 20s, as you said, Brent. And it was there doing Prohibition. And this bar was actually there doing bootlegging days. So this activity went on. So my theory is that these were just people that perhaps patroned this bar back in the day, or the speakeasy, whatever. And that was their hangout, and they visited this place again for whatever the reason, right? I don't know what the technical word for that is, but yeah. But then when I did that research, it was certainly there, so I can ascertain it was ghosts from the past. Now, prior to this, a lot of the employees were telling me that they always heard weird things, but never seen anything. It just kind of culminated, whatever the word is.
Culminated, yeah.
Culminated with, of course, me, of course, right?
How long did you own the bar by the time this happened, Rob? How long were you owning
That
it?
was my 11th year.
That was your 11th year. Okay.
Yeah,
So that's quite a
and
time.
but throughout, and never anything weird for the first 4 or 5 years. Then there was rumblings. Then employees would tell me that late at night glasses would fall out of the kitchen cabinet, out of the back kitchen cabinets and break.
Mhm.
Many times they clean the tops of the bars off. They would take all the glassware away, all the bottles. And right before, again, like me, when they went to leave, there would be a couple bottles around, and then they would hear voices and whispers at night, and they would tell me about it. And I worked 10 a.m. to 10 at night, pretty much 7 days a week. I rarely worked the night shift. This particular week, I worked the night shift because I was intrigued, for one, by some of these stories that were starting to come about, and also a person I gave him the night off, and I spent the whole week there working the night shift, where I closed up. And it was maybe on the third or fourth night. In fact, that night that this all happened, I couldn't go to sleep. I didn't even go home. I spent the night at the bar waiting for the employees coming in the next morning, and told them, "You guys, guess what I saw?"
You'll never guess what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of neat, though. I mean, to actually see them and to see that physical interaction firsthand is so rare. That's such an amazing experience.
Yeah, that was amazing. I got to tell you what, in my encounter, I had a Cadillac with the alleged Bigfoot or whatever it was. That was creepy, scary.
Ooh, yeah.
But I don't know which one I liked better. It was probably the ghost story because it didn't end in tragedy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. I think that's it's a 1 in a billion experience, really seeing them there and seeing them interact physically with objects, and even the fact that they snuck your whiskey out of the back. I mean,
they took it from the back like they were being sneaky.
Yeah, like, hey, let's go hit the whiskey. He'll never notice.
Yeah. and I know, because to run your business accordingly, you got to know your inventory, and I knew exactly where they took it from.
That's why
I said they're being sneaky, and Tex always says, it's kind of weird, like you say, that I seen these ghosts, I seen this physical experience, and then Tex says, yeah, I'm one of the few guys I seen a Bigfoot during daytime vocalize at me, right, during the day, which a lot of people can't make claims to. At least there's very few.
Yep.
And then also now see this manifestation right before my eyes of not one, not two, but 4 ghosts from the past.
Yep.
So I've had some, amongst my other things I've experienced throughout my life, So I've had a very vivid life when it comes to these things.
Yeah.
Did you ever do or try to look in to see if there was any murders at the bar back in the day?
I didn't specifically look that up. I'm sure it might have been flagged. I'd have to. I can only speculate that during that time of year. Well, during that time period, I'm speculating that maybe there was, but I couldn't find anything. Not that I looked for it to answer your question directly, but not that I'm aware of, to be honest.
It'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah, but just by virtue of it being a speakeasy and that there being such a heavy prohibition, I'm sure
there's many a gunfight that probably went down.
Yeah.
You would have to think so.
Yeah, I'm sure there was mafia ties involved and all kinds of stuff, but
and that even Al Capone had a hideaway here in Upper Michigan where he used to. It was secluded back in the woods, and it was a bar restaurant that only his gang went to. And in fact, I think that John Dillinger also had a similar operation. I think that Dillinger and Capone were in different eras.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, they were.
Okay, so he also had something in Michigan as well. In fact, a lot of people suggested a lot of Dillinger's money was buried up north somewhere, along with Capone and all these people. Wow. So a lot of times in Michigan, you have people that they find these stories online, and they'll go try looking for the buried money, or whatever. They were bank robbers for the most. Well, Dillinger was a bank robber. Capone was just into everything,
There was a dinner club in Michigan when I lived out there, or when I visited out there, that was allegedly Al Capone's as well. And And that place was crawling with secret passageways. We were younger, like teenagers, and we would go through all the secret passages and, these hidden wall doors and stuff. And it was like you'd end up in a weird cubby in the back. And it was really fascinating. But it was like a sports club now or then. And it was, it was members only. So we were like, it wasn't like a problem that we were looking around. It wasn't like we were breaking the rules, but I was fascinated by the whole, this is the house, but wait, there's more. And then there were secret passages and hidden rooms and stuff. That's fascinating to me.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I was just, I like history. History's fascinating,
Yeah.
especially about when you do the history on like the bar or your own house, or, it's always something I'm more prevalent and more open to checking out history moving forward. If I ever buy anything big or a house or whatever, just to invest, or property, just to investigate what's happening. Just like the Cadillac, Michigan encounter,
right?
Haunted, tainted land 100 miles north of there. That I found out, and I never thought of that. The longer you do this stuff, the more ideas people give you to look into, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So but a lot of crazy, creepy things. And it didn't happen just after Bigfoot. I've seen a lot of things prior to the Bigfoot, as a kid, UFO, ghosts, this, that, and the other, shadow people. So I've got something that follows me around. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
And then, of course, this is what I'm doing now today.
It's all brought you to here, Rob. It's all brought
I've come full circle. But this has been a great show, guys.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I had a good time, but I'm family. So
you are family. I don't have to call you.
You don't have to thank us anymore, remember?
That's right.
Yeah, I have to thank.
That's right.
I want to thank my audience, though. Thanks for coming on in. If you're new, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob, Texas Front Porch, Brent Thomas, the Paranormal Portal on YouTube. Like it on your way out. And it always never fails when we're getting ready to shut down the show. We maximize our chat, people. Over 70 people. Yeah, you guys, I start at 1:00 sharply in the East on Thursdays, 9:00 sharply on Tuesdays, and this, that, and the other. And Tex, of course, is 9:00 sharp on Mondays. And Brent, you're on how many days a week? 3 times a week?
3 times a week for live shows, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and I do a podcast that's available everywhere, and those are released on Mondays. This week I'm doing Brandy, so it's a 2-parter. So I released part 1 on Monday. Part 2 is going to be released.
There, buddy.
Yeah, leave it up to Tex.
Said you were doing Brandy.
It's not. It's Tex. It's not Saturday night. It's not the Saturday night show.
Yeah. Well, let me rephrase that. My guest this week is Brandy from what you heard on my YouTube show. And I've created a 2-parts podcast episodes of that. So watch for it everywhere you get podcasts.
I am starting something new next week.
You are, Tex. And what's this now, pray tell?
I am going to start doing Waking Up Weird 5 days a week.
Oh, in the morning, 10:00, or what time you come on? 9?
Yeah, 8 a.m.
Central.
Yep.
So 9 in the East.
Do not call me.
So 9 in the East, Monday through Friday.
Paul will be showing up when he can.
Yeah.
And I have somebody else that's going to be showing up when they can.
Good.
Fairly regularly.
Well, that's
and
great.
That is Kristen Payton.
Oh, great. Yeah, she does have those cool hours to do that. I don't know if she thinks you're cool.
So you're saying you don't need me is what you're saying, yeah?
So you can get your ass out of bed.
It'd be 5:00 in the morning for you, Brent. So you wouldn't show up anyways.
I love you, Tex, but I have
not that much.
I have limits to my love.
Hey, quick shout out to Andy, Alien 8 UK. Go check him out. He's got a great channel. Go check out Andy, my buddy from the UK. Show him some love. He's got a pretty cool show. He's got a paranormal cryptid type show as well from the UK. Check out Alien 8 UK. Thanks for showing up, Andy. Thanks to everybody for showing up. As I said, hit that like button on your way out. subscribe. You can see me Tuesdays nights, Thursday afternoons, Friday evenings. Now I'm doing a Friday evening show at 6:30 and Saturday at 11 with the gals, and sometimes text. So yeah, we got a lot going on. Turn on your alert bells is all I can suggest, so you don't miss an episode. And of course, Eventbrite. If you have not got your tickets, check it out. It's gonna be one hell of an event. Somebody's calling it the event of the year. Tex Wesson. Yeah.
That's what I was. That was not me. That was somebody else. I just took it.
Somebody else said that. It was like an audience member had said that, and you rolled with it. And why not? Right?
Awesome.
Well, I took a page out of your, marketing book there.
Thank you.
Mr.
You
BMR.
should read it a little further. A little, you got, you read a little bit more.
Baby steps.
Yes, one step at a time. For Brent, for Tex, this is BMR. Until next time, we're out. Oh, that's the logo. It's not the. I'm pulling a Tex move here. Here we go. See you guys later.
This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks, with an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.